Welcome back to my Christopher Nolan series, in which I'm reviewing all of his movies leading up to the release of Tenet, which was originally supposed to come out this week. The Dark Knight came out in 2008 and picks up shortly after the events of Batman Begins. Commissioner Gordon and Gotham's new district attorney, Harvey Dent, team up with Batman to take down the mob, who in a somewhat desperate position decide to hire the Joker. And from there, things become a whole lot more chaotic. The Dark Knight is a film that's very special to me. I remember my first time watching it, I was about 6 or 7, and I saw it on a plane, which isn't very cinematic, especially for a Nolan film, but I was a kid, I didn't care. This was the first movie I watched that had an R rating, although in America it's PG-13, but even so, it's a pretty hard PG-13. And yeah, my parents found out, because obviously I watched it in secret, and every bit of trouble that I got myself into in the following weeks was to be blamed on this movie. Good times. It was only once I was 11 that I got to see this film a second time. This is just one of those movies that I've always loved. The only thing that changed as I got older was that there was more for me to appreciate, such as the acting. Everyone who I praised in my last Batman review is just as good, if not better, in this one. Michael Caine, Morgen, Freeman, Gary Oldman are all great, and of course Christian Bale, who I do believe has less screen time in this one, which might be an issue for some, but for me it made sense for what they were going for. Besides, it's not like he's sidelined, it's just that they needed more screen time to flesh out other characters that play an integral part to the story. This film has a much grander scale. It's pretty much the definition of epic, which is reinforced with the IMAX aspect ratio, which it switches to every time there's an action scene or you see the city of Gotham. And when that happens, it's quite breathtaking. This film also started Nolan's trend of having these grandiose IMAX prologues. In this one, it's the awesome bank robbery, in which the Joker plots all of his henchmen to kill each other for a higher share, which is just so good. Heath Ledger, I honestly don't think I can say anything that hasn't already been said. His performance as the Joker, in my opinion, is the best performance in any comic book movie, and is one of my favorite performances in general. He won an Oscar for this role, which at the time was a groundbreaking achievement for superhero movies. What happened to him was a tragedy, may he rest in peace. But man, what a fantastic actor. I think what also made this character work, aside from Heath's performance, was the way he's written. Because he doesn't just challenge Batman physically, he mostly challenges him psychologically. He forces people to make really difficult decisions under pressure, whether that be threatening to kill people unless Batman reveals his identity, his social experiment on the ferries, or the hospital scene. All these moments are there for him to test people's morality, and that to me is so much more interesting than your average money-hungry baddie. I love that he tells a different story about how he got his scars, because the first time you watch it you think they've given Joker a backstory, but as it goes along you realize he's just making it all up. The interrogation scene is one of the best scenes in the movie. You're shown just how through talking he's able to get under Batman's skin. I mean, how unsettling is that when someone as strong as Batman punches the Joker in the face and his response is to start laughing at him? That's some messed up stuff, and he's just got such an intense and intimidating screen presence, and I love it. They recast the character of Rachel, who was previously played by Katie Holmes, with Maggie Gyllenhaal, and when recastings like this usually happen, I often find it to be quite distracting, but since I prefer Maggie Gyllenhaal in this role anyway, I'm fine with it. Aron Eckhart plays Harvey Dent, who's the new DA of Gotham City, and he does an excellent job. He's very convincing with his speeches and his mannerisms, and I really like the role that his character plays in the story and what it eventually leads to. I know I already mentioned Gary Oldman as Commissioner Gordon, but he's just too good not to mention. They give his character a lot more to do in this one. In fact, he's essentially one of the main characters, and I think that's great. Hans Zimmer and James Newton Howard once again teamed up to do the score, and I love it even more than the first one, just because of how suspenseful it is. You know what's also amazing? Is the lack of music during certain scenes. The tunnel chase, which is brilliant by the way, has no music, and I respect that choice. Christopher Nolan is pretty well known for doing things practically, and I think it's especially important to mention in his Batman films, because these days, most superhero movies, including DC, use so much green screen and CGI, whereas Nolan only uses these tools when he absolutely needs to, and I think that's extremely admirable. There's something so satisfying about knowing that a lot of what you're seeing was actually done. Not to mention it looks a lot more convincing. They actually flipped a truck. They built the Batpod. They blew up cars and buildings. They crashed vehicles. Christian Bale is actually standing on the edge of a skyscraper. That's impressive. Another thing that Nolan does is he intercuts scenes, meaning that at times there'll be 3 scenes happening at the same time, and he'll switch between them, which adds a lot to the tension because of how they build upon each other. Now, look, there are things that I could nitpick. There's an editing choice that kind of bugs me, there are a few noticeable continuity errors, but in all honesty, I really don't care. These things are so small that I find it so easy to look past because everything else on display is top tier. The action is a huge improvement over the last film. All the performances are incredible. I've seen this film more times than I care to admit, and some people think it's overrated. I don't. The Dark Knight is a mature crime drama, and not only is it my favorite superhero movie, but it's one of my favorite movies, period, which is why The Dark Knight absolutely deserves an A+. If you guys are interested, I created a playlist with all my Nolan reviews, which should pop up here somewhere on that side. I appreciate you for stopping by, and liking and sharing these videos is also appreciated. Hope you're all doing well, and as always, thanks for watching.